Hi, so the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to deploy GitHub Actions self-hosted runner to Kubernetes and connect it with your GitHub repository, and how to add GitHub workflow to redeploy Nginx on every configuration change. So why we need to use self-hosted runner at all? And the reason for self-hosted runner is coming from security limitation in this case. In this specific case, I have an internal Kubernetes cluster which is not externally reachable and can be accessed only using the VPN. So how it works if the cluster can be reached externally? The self-hosted runner connects to GitHub to receive job assignments and to download new version of the runner application. The self-hosted runner uses an HTTPS long poll that opens a connection to GitHub for 50 seconds, and if no response is received, it then times out and creates a new long poll. Since the self-hosted runner opens a connection to GitHub, you don't need to allow GitHub to make inbound connections to your self-hosted runner. Okay, so let's generate GitHub's personal access token first. For this, you need to go to your GitHub account, settings profile, then go to developer settings, give a name to your personal access token, GHPAT in my case, and click on generate new token. Next step will be to provision self-hosted runner to Kubernetes. I will use a Docker file for self-hosted runner from this repo. This repo created by sender Nape, which already created all needed parts to deploy self-hosted runner to Kubernetes. Also added Docker file and deployments YAML file. Okay, now I validate created a personal access token by running self-hosted runner in a Docker container. I will use my account. The owner will be Varol, the repo will be GitHub Actions series, and the path will be path we previously generated. You can actually go now to GitHub repo, settings, actions, runners, and you will see new self-hosted runner we just provisioned. The next step will be to deploy it to Kubernetes. I will use kind Kubernetes cluster for the demo. Okay, now it's time to actually provision self-hosted runner to Kubernetes. First, let's clone the repo, GitHub Actions series repo, and then we need to create Kubernetes secrets, which is based on a personal access token we generated previously in GitHub. Okay, let me do the brief overview of manifests for deployment, and I will start with the deployment YAML, in which we need to set 4 parameters: GitHub owner, Varol in my case, the repo, GitHub Action series in my case, labels, runner labels. I'm using self-hosted runner, and the GitHub personal access token, which is taken from Kubernetes secret we created previously. Another detail, I'm installing kubectl to existing runner using a lifecycle pod start hook. We need it in order to redeploy Nginx on configuration change. I'm also using the service account and the cluster role and cluster role binding in order to give a needed set of permissions to the runner, because runner need to be able redeploy Nginx on every configuration change. Okay, now let's deploy all needed manifests in self-hosted runner folder, and then we validate self-hosted runner is running and connected. So the last step actually would be to create workflow with GitHub Actions to redeploy Nginx server on configuration change. When Nginx deployment YAML will be changed and committed and pushed to repo, of course. So this is the workflow itself. As you can see, every time some file will be changed in Nginx folder, meaning this file in our case, what will happen? This command will be applied, kubectl apply f nginx deployment YAML. Meaning every change will trigger this command. And like I showed you before, we have kubectl in each runner, because we installed on each runner kubectl. Okay, so the only thing left is to do some change to the deployment YAML and to push the change to GitHub Actions series in my case. Then you will see Nginx will be redeployed. That's basically it. Thank you for watching.